Hi, Elizabeth. Welcome back. How are you? What's been happening with you?
Hi, Stephen. I'm well. It's been quite a few, I think, couple of months, hasn't it? It's been 3 months since my last interview.
Mm.
Like a confessional. um, yeah, so it's been. I'm just struggling a little with allergies, so if I wipe my eyes, just ignore
Mm.
me. I'm not crying. Yeah, it's been a pretty amazing few months actually. We've finished a large project which is going to premiere November the 14th. It's just
Mm-hmm.
a YouTube premiere, but it's been a year long project.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll send you the links to that. And then I've got one of my improvised conception compositions, I suppose you could call it, has been put in a final list of an Austrian music competition
Mm.
called Phono Echoes, and that's going to be broadcast in early November. Um, so that's really cool. And then I just finished a large improvisation composition with a group called the Spontaneous Network of Improvising Musicians, and they do a combination of composition, improvisation in all their performances. Very, very fine ensemble, wonderful musicians. And they performed one of my pieces called Reside in, Resolve Out. And it was obviously to do with the pandemic. And yeah, and so that was really fantastic. That was a multimedia project that was finished last week. Um, so it's been actually a pretty exhausting time finishing all these projects and getting new ones ready, lined up. But that's
Wow.
been pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a new premier in New South Wales. Gladys Berejiklian resigned.
Yes, I heard about this. It's all very scandalous, but
And then
it's kind of boring, isn't it? That they had to that she had to resign. I mean, it's not very stable for the government, is it?
the new premier's Catholic, and the media's whinging about him being Catholic. Dominic Perrottet, he used to be the
Yeah,
MP for Epping.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right.
You know.
But he's but I mean, yes, they're probably worried that he's not uh, right wing Christian enough, one of those, evangelical,
Mm.
um, one of those types. So, yeah,
Mm.
he's maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's what's been happening. I've got a subscription to Disney Plus. Been watching American Dad, The Simpsons as well.
All
Been
right,
watching.
yeah,
I love
cool.
the alien Roger in his personas. That's
He'll
been
be
what I've been
wonderful.
doing. Just had my 2 week break. Came back. Keep on
Uh
doing
huh.
this show, and
Yeah,
yeah,
that's good. Yeah, and how is your composition going?
yeah. I've sort of taken a break from that.
Mm-hmm.
Might be rescoring a clip soon to put on my YouTube channel,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, that's what I've been
Yes.
looking for. And yeah,
Well,
it's
as far as being creative, there are two. It seems like there are two approaches, and one is, well, it doesn't matter. I just do it no matter what, and something will come out of it. You just keep producing, producing, producing. And then the other side is like, well, if there's no reason to, there's no outcome, there's no outlet, there's nobody listening, there's nobody watching. Why then I shouldn't bother until something comes along.
well, that's
And
exactly right.
this,
For
yeah,
me, it's live streaming, Elizabeth, because I'm finding if I live stream my podcast, no one's turning up. I mean, we've got the Spotify Green Room now,
yeah,
and it's like I can live stream a podcast on an audio app on my phone. But I said this to Jason Stevenson. I said, Jason, if there's only one person watching my show on Twitch, what's the point? I might as well just do it pre-recorded. It's frustrating.
yeah, yeah. It's absolutely. I mean, um, we have a little video that we did that we think is fantastic music and a video accompanying it. And we think it's great. The music is fantastic, and we've shared it. It's a little tiny thing. We just shared it to people to say, "Hey, have a look at this." It's not even for sale. It's just a little thing that an experiment that we did, and yeah, we've had in the past. It's been up for 3 weeks, I think, 2 weeks or something, and it's had like I don't know 60 views on YouTube. Like, oh well. And it's just like everyone who knows us knows it's there. So even those people could have got in and looked. So even your friends abandon you. I think it's partly because things are there's so much is just saturation point, and it's just adding. When you add too much salt to water, there's just still left with the crystals. So yeah, pretty much we're just these little bits of crystal that just sit there and do nothing, because it's just overwhelming how much especially after everything's opening up all over the world after the pandemic. It's just like people are just exploding everywhere. But I will say that live music is really coming alive as far as an audience. There's a huge response to live. So maybe taking your interview out into a bush setting or something, and having people sit around and listen, or
that is the plan. One day get a studio, but I don't mind Zoom actually. But yeah, looking to get creative with it as well. But that's just my frustrations, Elizabeth. It's like I put all this work in, and then no one wants to engage with it. It's like I'm working for nothing.
Yep, that's the way.
Do you get that too?
Absolutely. I've just had it for more decades than you.
You serious? Even before YouTube came around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every aspect of the creative process that we do before it turns into something that people can experience, that part is thwarted because you're short of time. You always have to do other things or something. And then the real time that's meant, like you think of a movie, how much marketing goes into it.
Oh, a lot
for the marketing. And that's the real, like, the dirge of the work. It's the dull stuff. That's it's the uncreative stuff. That's the systems and marketing statistics, and that's actually where the bulk of the effort needs to go in order for this one little thing to be that was creative and done in a hurry and done on a budget, and everything has to be presented in order to get it out there. The balance is completely wrong. It's like an inverse triangle of effectiveness. So what gets out is crap most of the time, and what gets hidden are these wonderful little things that you just find, or word of mouth, or in a live concert, a live performance, or at an art gallery where you actually go to see, the living artists talking about their art, or at a dance, a theatre or something. But a lot of stuff is getting buried, and if you look at it throughout history, that's been happening anyway. There's an exhibition in Australia. I can't remember which gallery, but this is recent history too. It's John Olsen's former wife. I mean, she's dead now, but when they were together, she had a great influence on his art, and he's one of Australia's greatest artists. And there's a whole exhibition of her work, and you can see her thinking in her art, and how you can just see it, how she was probably influential in the way that he used his lines. And he was very complimentary with her, but she never ever got an exhibition. This is her first exhibition, and she's dead. So it's like, how can this be? Australia's so small. She would have been. She was well known in her circles, in her circles of friends, and obviously she was well known as his star rose. but she was neglected, and it's not necessarily all because she's a woman or all because she's a partner of a famous artist, so she had to take second fiddle. It's not just that; it's also partly the media, and possibly her own desires not to be overexposed.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just like, and now she's because she's not alive, her children are pushing her out
Mm.
and giving her the time of day. I bet like $100 million that they're putting more marketing and more money into the marketing of this exhibition than she ever would have earned from any of the art if
Mm.
she had sold it or when she did sell it. I'm just like, it's almost a guarantee. And then you get
Yes.
you get so much exposure for things that have already been overexposed, and people are learning at university in their business schools and marketing courses how to repackage.
Mm.
And it's not good enough just to present something like a Van Gogh exhibition or a Modigliani exhibition or a Billy Joel concert or whatever. It's not good enough to do. You have to repackage it. You have to show it in a new light, as if the old light isn't good enough.
Mm.
And that's also stopping people like burgeoning people or burgeoning artists or people who are experimental or people, perfect examples sitting right here, um, you and I, and there's no scope for us because we can't be packaged. We don't have the marketing tools to be packaged in the same way. And we can't be repackaged yet because we're not famous enough to kind of get a revamp or a retrospective or a new improved kind of thing, experience. So for an audience, they haven't even experienced it the first time. This is also linked in, I think, to something that the Frank Zappa said once. He's like, oh well, every era looks back on itself with more recent history, and it's almost like it's going to be death by nostalgia. So
Mm.
every day with like Instagram, people saying, "Oh, look at what I did yesterday." Now it's look what I'm doing now, and it's already a memory the moment they take the photo and tell you about their new puppy or
Yeah.
their hot dog or something.
Because I'm trying to think, Elizabeth, if my company Shiels Productions is not making me money, then it's just a hobby.
Well, this is technically what we call, but then why label it? Why do you have to label it? Except for the tax office, you don't need to label things anyway. If you call it a hobby, you get different tax, um, benefits. But that's it. It is what you do.
It is, but you got to see it from my point of view. I treat this like $1 million business, and I take it seriously because it gets me up in the morning. But then when I'm pitching this by what I do to people, they don't take me seriously as an entrepreneur.
Well, yes, you're right.
Why?
That's all I can say.
And I produce this talented work.
Yeah. There are so many factors that go into why somebody is well known and why somebody is taken seriously. But I suppose, I mean, yeah, that you could tick any box, and it probably it applies to you. So it might be you're living in Australia, you're young, you're doing something that is on point, so everybody's doing it with you. Um, the you're not you're not having sex with somebody really, really, really famous. Maybe you are. I don't know, but
I don't do the Harvey Weinstein stuff. That
that's
ain't
right.
cool.
And you're not taking it from anybody else. So
It's not that like it's like all my work's original, and to win a first prize and that's something good for my reputation. I mean, I've only been an entrepreneur for 1 year.
Yeah.
I've only made $20 in my first year, Elizabeth. But I do it because I love it. But hey, I want to make a living out of it, and I have a right.
Yeah. We had a business called Tight and Chunky Compositions
Nice.
for about.
Did you trademark?
No, we didn't. Didn't quite get that far, but we had that going for. I was going for I think 15 years,
Yeah, that's a long
and
time.
the first year because we marketed it, it was very good advice we got to take everything we do and put it under one umbrella rather than splitting it up into different things. So we, instead of we didn't teach and compose and do this. We were doing providers of training
Mm.
and providers of training, music, art, and text compositions. So what that meant was we could train and we can provide a product and a service all in one thing. And that meant that if one of those areas, like for instance, say 1 month or 2 months or something, there were no composition commissions coming in, which is kind of normal. Um, or for instance, if we were teaching or private or training, as we called it, and the schools were on holidays for 8 weeks, there's no money coming in. We were able to shift it around like that and to shape it into a thing. And after a few years, it was only about maybe 1 year for us, but we were including everything in what we did. There was no sense that if we go to Paris to go and see an exhibition or a concert, or if we do a charity gig in the local town, or if I put on an art exhibition, or if we put on a student concert, all the expenses, the whole activity was under that umbrella because of how we structured it. So if you're doing your podcast or your radio show, or if you can have it all under one thing, and incorporate that with all your activities, because obviously if you're calling this a hobby, then maybe what are your other things that you're doing? They need to kind of feed into that. And for us, anything we did that was, for instance, in the teaching or the pedagogical or educational realm, um, all that was about inviting people in, both the students and whoever was attached to their students, if they were young students, and inviting them into our world of creativity.
Mm.
So they weren't just coming in and having a lesson on clarinet or composition or guitar or something. They were actually coming into a space where there was art everywhere, where they would be engaged with. We asked them to give their ideas on what they could see or hear in the lesson. It wasn't just learn your scales and do the ABB thing. It was, and everyone understood that that's how they were going to be taught. Even from a very early age, even from like 10-year-old children, they knew when they come into the tight and chunky realm, it's a multidisciplinary, multimedia experience, and they don't necessarily know which direction or which emphasis it's going to be. And I think that was that way of embracing. So it could be your teaching, but it could also be your marketing. The way you market, you have to find a way that it's actually creative as for you. It doesn't have to be creative for anybody else, but for you.
In the future, I'm looking at getting a CEO for Shiels Productions, and I'll be stepping down.
Yeah, but you have to make it attractive enough, don't you?
I will. Like, I'm not using any paid advertising for this, by the way. This is all done organic, the old school way. Like, I even go and put business cards in people's letter boxes.
Yeah. Maybe the other thing that somebody suggested to me was just to get an arts manager to take care of a few things.
I'm looking at an agent soon.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah. Because I think if you're doing something, I mean, right now, if I were kind of really wanting to market something in a powerful way, and my life depended on it, because that was my choice of, earning income, right now I don't have to worry about that. Yeah, I would probably be looking into getting a marketing manager or something.
Mm.
If I were, for instance, if I wanted to do, I can't, I don't even want to, but if I wanted to do, say, 8 exhibitions a year, I would have to have a manager to help me with because each exhibition is it's a whole kind of world of contracts and discussions and everyone is different. But since I don't do exhibitions every month or even every couple of months, it's maybe at the moment it's been nothing since the corona, only online ones, which are not really. That's not an exhibition in that sense.
What's your opinion on NFTs, selling artwork as NFTs with cryptocurrency? I've been hearing a lot lately.
Yeah. If you can find me someone who will manage that for me, I'll do it.
I
But
tried to open a crypto wallet, but I had a hard time with it.
yeah,
I don't
it's
know
not
how.
easy. The thing is, you have to pay to even apply. You have to pay to even submit one of your works.
Yeah.
So somebody's earning a lot of money by people flooding the NFT market with submissions, and you have to pay for every single submission, and then somebody's just getting a lot of money for rejecting.
Mm.
So
Well,
I would say
there are some
it's
where it's not, but you got to pay to have a minimum balance in your crypto
yeah,
wallet. I
yeah.
tried it,
Yeah.
but it was just too hard for me.
Mm.
Um,
To me, I think the way with the NFT would be to form a collective
mm,
and have of small people, maybe about 6 people that you trust. I'm just turning
mm,
my heat down because it's really getting warm now. The and forming a collective of maybe 6 people that you trust and working on NFT activity in that way. So you all pitch in maybe, I don't know, whatever amount, X amount of bitcoins or whatever they're using now,
mm.
and then just start working together to formulate something. I've not seen anything that's come out of it that has been of good quality or
Mm.
any better quality. So as far as the cultural experience, um, I've not seen that. What I have seen though is that a lot of young people are able to access it more easily than older people. So
Mm.
it's ageist. A lot of men have been able to access it more than women, so that's sexist. A lot of white people and a lot of European or first class, first world people are getting more involved than developing countries. That's discrimination. Um, there's also uh, the people who are buying are also a very narrow group of people. They're in it for the business, not for the culture.
Mm.
So there's a lot of stuff that's really, really bad there. It's worse than walking down the cereal aisle of Coles.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
that's my idea.
yeah. I've done a couple of videos on YouTube about some scams you got to be careful of.
Mm.
But yeah, look, anyone watching this video, if you're using NFTs, drop your comments and let me know how you've gone with it.
Yeah, and it's in. I mean, that's the thing. People aren't really sharing their
Mm.
failures. You only hear of the successes. I
Like
got $1 million for my NFT. You
that's
never hear somebody
clickbaiting.
saying,
Yeah.
yeah, and you never hear anybody saying, I made it, I had a go and it didn't work. I do know a couple of people who are making it um, not successful, but approachable. So
Mm.
they'll say, you can buy my CD on with Bitcoin, or it's available as an NFT. All you have to do, and they give you the steps of how to get your wallet.
Mm.
So if you're a buyer, it's not such a problem. But as a seller, different story. And
Exactly. I'll tell you something with
yeah,
royalty-free music because I sell royalty-free.
mm-hmm.
I was submitting last year to Envato Elements Audio Jungle. 5 times they rejected me. And I was just like, fuck this. I'm not going to waste my time with them. I was pissed off.
That's the other thing is
and all this FTP uploading too. It's just like, come on.
And then the other thing that's happening is that there are all these places where you have to submit your product to be accepted. Even Facebook business.
Ugh.
You can't just put something up. It has to be reviewed. Now I understand why they want to review it on a community humanity kind of level, but I know it's not that. I know what they're doing is they're working out. We're going to make money on this,
Yeah.
But a lot
Business.
of what's happening certainly in the NFT world, it's always happened in the commercial world, but people are buying these NFT things, and they're with the arrangement that they're going to sell it back to the artist. Then the artist buys it, they buy it for more, and then somebody buys that for more, and then they keep building on this castle of sand. And what ends up happening is that's why you get these NFT products, if you can call them that, meta products, that are selling for 3 million Bitcoin or whatever, however, 27 million.
You got Ethereum as well. I've been hearing about. And blockchain. So that's the things I've tried, Elizabeth, that hasn't worked.
I think the one way that still works is homegrown, in your face, on at the front of the line, face to face, in person. That sort of still works. I did a gig in Salzburg just a couple of weeks ago, and we had been doing this online improv. We do my improv freedom improv sessions, and we have been doing them since the pandemic online because that's the only way we could get together. It's grown so that people from all over the world come in on Monday nights and Saturday evenings, and we play together. And there were 3 that I met that we seemed to keep coming back together, and one was from Germany and one was from Salzburg, and for the first time after over a year, we actually met in person. And it was the most extraordinary experience. It's like these people who say they date online and then they meet their true love in person at the airport kind of thing. And it was really funny because none of us knew really our height or what we really looked like. And when I was picked up by these 2 people, Pete Kinson, Paul Isa, and from the train station, and I was looking around. They said, Les, they're waving. I couldn't see. I could tell they were like trying to catch my attention from somewhere. I looked around, and there was this guy, and he was like way up here. And I had thought all this time that he was like, I don't know, normal height. And he was like over 6 feet tall. And I had no idea. And but we had a most wonderful performance. And the thing that happened was that because we've been working together for a whole year online, the joy and the communication of actually being able to do something during the pandemic, and then the explosion of the in-person, you actually can touch this person and you can lean towards this person and you can make, the presence of the person became such a part of our performance in Salzburg that we had such a huge response to the audience. In fact, normally at this group, this is a small collective of, like-minded people. And this time, it was like the first time that the organization received emails, about 15, 20 emails of people saying this was one of the most beautiful, one of the best performances that we've ever seen. And they normally don't get any emails. And it was such a wonderful experience to be live with these people performing live that we knew only from online with a live audience. That's that hasn't changed. The only thing that's happened is we're more grateful or more precious or more careful where we go. But that beautiful connection with the audience is absolutely, that has not changed. I did last week. I did an artist talk, and the audience, it was an absolutely packed audience. They just can't wait to hear things live. And one of the questions the interviewer asked me was, now that you've had the experience of both online, talking and online playing and online exhibitions and the real thing, or the live, I shouldn't say real thing, because it's all real, but. And she said, what do you prefer? As personally, do you have a preference? And I said, oh, well, I think you can tell by my body language, because I kept referring back to the audience, like, looking back to the audience. And I said, I suppose you can tell straight away by my body language that I prefer this. And the audience, you could hear them going, oh, like making a sound, making a gesture, making some sort of comment. It could have been like, oh, well, so what, or what? It could have been anything, but it was live. That was the thing. I could hear it, I could see it, I could smell it, and that's not going to change. So any of these online things that we do, all these things are really just, in some ways, they are accessories. So if you've got your fridge and you've got everything, cooling and keeping preserved there, these are just the little containers that the fridge comes with, and you pop things in there, or like the egg holders that you never put your eggs in, or or the little extra points where you can add extra shelves that you never buy. Little things. It's not the thing that's going to excite other people. And that's what you want. You want people to get excited about your story. And that's the part where there's no marketing for that. Have you heard about this dog? Millions of people are tuning in every morning to this dog, where the owner goes to the dog, wakes him up in the morning and goes, hello, hello, get up. And if the dog doesn't wake up, then it's a no-bones day, like stay in bed, don't do anything. If the dog gets up, yes, go, buy that lottery ticket, go and get that job, go. And millions of people are watching to see whether the dog is predicting their day online. I mean, that is nuts. And yet you can understand it. You can sort of understand. It's reaching something in people that you can't. His story is reaching people somehow. And I mean, I think it's ridiculous and waste of time and stupid, but at the same time, I think it's funny. I understand the humor of it, the tongue-in-cheek of it. And then a deeper irony as it progresses into something, where you're going to have dog merch and maybe a dog video and this sort of thing.
I opened up my merchandise store on Redbubble. I'm trialing out some the Stephen Shiels radio show merchandise. So I started my Patreon page too. So I'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and the other thing is you just have to dip into everything until you find what works for you. I've also got a Redbubble account with my artwork, and people can buy, with those you can buy all sorts of different types of clothing with the patterns and whatever you choose, which it's really quite versatile, and the quality is good. I've got one with Fine Art America, which is just my original artwork and good quality prints. I've got a Buy Me a Coffee account.
Me too.
And that's actually been good. I've got one section where it's just one of those what they call extras. I can offer people a small work of art on a budget price, and that's been quite good. You can also, obviously, with Buy Me Coffee, you can just ask people to donate. So a couple of times that's happened. It's quite a nice little feature. Did you know that sometimes the company itself offers promotional kind of incentives. So if you produce a tiny little video about your buy me a coffee experience or something, they'll pay you money in coffee.
Well,
So there's little things like that.
I've made money back on Webtalk. You know, I'm always talking about Webtalk. Made about $5 back, so I'm happy that I can get paid, monetized on social media.
Yeah, it's all possible. It's all there. My sister is doing a lot. Ilse Desire, she's doing a huge amount, big push online, and hers is starting to really pay off. She's been doing it for many years though, and she offers a range of things similar to what I was describing before, with the training, workshops, product, compositions, and CDs, and all sorts of things that are associated with her creative output. And she actually got somebody to come in and help her as well, and it's been really good. That it's how hard you push the market, and you've got to keep flooding it or keep pushing like a lava surge, and you've just got to keep it going. And if you stop one day, that's a day late, dollar short. You're always going to be behind. So the more days you stop, the more it ends up being this way. So consistency is apparently the big thing.
It is, but you don't want to burn out.
Yeah, but think about all the advertising you see in your life that you try and get rid of, like on YouTube now, when they put in the ads. Think of all of the things that you see every time you even look at or listen to news or pick up a magazine. You see the same ad over and over. You see the same promotion over and over. You go to a poster, you go walk down the street, there's a poster repeated. Why do they have to have 20 posters of the same thing on a board or on a vacant window or at a wall? Why do they need 20 or 30? Why can't they just put one poster? What's going on in our heads that we need repetition? So if the marketing people are doing this for Barnum and Bailey Circus or Vogue magazine or Coca-Cola, then that's the way that has to be embraced as well. Unless you find that little tiny golden nugget thing that shares your story in a way that other people are excited. And so but you don't want to give it away. It's very fine line, and you have to do so many experiments before you find what works for you. One piece of advice that I always follow is, and it really covers whether you're doing it as a hobby or whether you're doing it as a career, is just follow your interests. So if you're marketing the way that you're marketing something, you find that really interesting and curious, like, for a while I was really enjoying the feedback and the buzz of Instagram, and at the moment I've got my focus on other places to get my information in and out, and to share my story. But so you have to find where it's exciting for you and where your interests are continually motivated. What gets you out of bed in the morning? So one way to sort of test that is to say, okay, think about, like, for the next week when you wake up, what's the first social media outlet you go to?
Meditation.
Okay, cool. So in terms of communication with others, maybe, like, I'm thinking more, not so much an app, but, something like, email, Facebook, or whatever. What's the first one you go to?
Webtalk.
Is it Messenger? Yeah, so that's whatever you go to first is what's first in your mind. Maybe like-minded people are doing the same thing.
Well, I got Insight Timer app, meditation app, so that's got a small community. I like small communities better.
Yeah.
I really
They
do.
could that could be a way to link in as well, but just have to work out what works best for
The thing
what
is
works best for
too,
you.
uh, information overload. I've noticed. It tends to frustrate me because there's so many apps for everything out there. So
Yeah,
much to process now with audio apps and paying monthly subscription.
yeah. There's a lot out there, a lot out there, and then there are apps to organize your apps.
Mm. I got a goal setting app. I started investing in the stock market now
Well, that's
and
good.
Bitcoin.
That'll get you going.
Hmm.
I think the one place that could be really lucrative right now is the what was it? I heard this only this morning. Um, oh gosh, which one was it? I can't remember. There was mining. It was in a mining industry or in a medical industry. Anyway, but there are a couple of unscrupulous places that you could put your money,
Mm.
like mining or something. Um,
Oh yeah.
but there are lots of opportunities there. Again, that's something if you find that interesting, go for it. I had one of my friends bought some bitcoins like way back when it first started. They bought like a couple $100 worth of bitcoin, and they thought, oh well, and um, they said, oh, I'll just let it sit there, and now it's worth a couple $1,000s
Mm.
in real time, and that was like 5 years ago or something. So it's like that's a huge. Imagine if you'd put in 100,000, you'd have 500,000.
Mm.
I think I've done the maths right. Um, but that's you can't know that. You can't know any of the things. I think the big thing is to follow your interests.
Hmm.
Follow your mosquito.
Yeah, that's a big problem. The weather's warming up. No, but yeah, like I've been reading Think and Grow Rich for the third time, Elizabeth, from Napoleon Hill. Really studying the book, and yeah, trial and error.
Yeah, yeah. It is. It's not an easy thing, but I mean, the places to make money are where money is made. So
Mm.
art is not the art industry, or even if it's called an industry, doesn't make it even any better. The place to go is to retrain in the finance area and yeah, get your MBA and sit in a company and work 9 to 5, and then do your thing. I mean, that's always an option. It's always an option to
But that's not me.
sideline your work.
Nah, it's all good.
It's not the end of the world, because if you think about people throughout history, look at Charles Ives.
Mm.
I mean, he was an accountant, wasn't he? I think an accountant all his life. And what an extraordinary output of incredibly beautiful, wonderful, innovative, thoughtful music that didn't pander to an audience. He didn't market it, and he was still able to do the thing, and he didn't get a lot of outcome until very, very late in his life that he actually heard things, but still, he was able to do this. And sometimes the, the there's a barrier to doing something because of the fear of the outcome not going in the direction you want it to go. But remember, when you put something out there, like if you put this interview out there or you put your composition out there, you have no control as to what direction it will take.
Mm.
And even a blockbuster movie is a gamble in that way. They can put all the marketing and do all the market research and throw all the statistics at it and do all the tried and true things, try a few experiments. No one really knows whether something's going to flop or not. And some things are so big that we don't know when they flop. Like Xanadu is a good example of absolute rubbish movie. But if you've seen it, it's better than a lot of things that are coming out now. I mean, it was just such a flop when it happened. That was just one example that just came to my head. And there's a lot of rubbish out there. But then who would have known that Priscilla, Queen of the Desert would have been one of the most well-known Australian movies? I mean, I understand Crocodile Dundee as being one, but Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, I mean, how on earth is that? You know,
No.
it's a good movie, but how could that be so amazingly, like, it's as well known almost as Jaws or Star Wars or something.
Well, Jaws is an old movie anyway. I studied
yeah.
Jaws. No, it's not that. I don't have fear of success, Elizabeth. It just frustrates me that people don't take me seriously.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know why.
Well, maybe you've missed your calling and you should be a comedian if they don't take you seriously.
I got the
Go into
podcast
stand-up
for
comedy.
it. No, I try to set up all multiple revenue streams, like got the podcast, YouTube, composition. What else? Stock market investing. No, look, I'm happy to have a roof over my head. I got nothing to lose.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that maybe you can, now that you've got a body of interviews and you've got an archive now. You might be able to use your experience that you've been develop your experience that you've had in doing these, and look back at your early interviews, see how you've developed, and you might be able to, because your interviewing style, not that this is really an interview, but your chat style is unique. So maybe there's something in that you can position yourself in a place that's maybe not necessarily in the music realm, but maybe it's outside. Maybe it's in a slightly different realm of the entrepreneurial realm or the
that's
personal
podcasting.
development realm.
I mean, I look at Joe Rogan's show too.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a comedian, UFC, Fear Factor, and he sold his show for $100 million to Spotify. And he's done like 1,000 episodes.
Yeah.
No, I think the Stephen Shiels radio show will go a long way because I have a vision for it. There's been some awful episodes, but look, every episode you just get better and better and better.
Yeah. Exactly. And I mean, some people, I did it, like I was telling you about the artist talk. I was with another artist. We were both having their talk, and the interviewer, she understood me. She had researched my work. She asked me questions that were like, "Oh yes, please, I want to answer that. I can't wait." And she had researched the other artist, but she didn't get it. It didn't make sense. It didn't quite connect. So every question that she shot at the other artist was saying, "No, that's not it at all." Every single question didn't match her, whatever was she was. But for me, every single one did, and we were talking at the end, after the interview, and it was live, so it's a bit awkward. So the interview's like, okay, well, next question. But with me, it flowed and it was easy because she got me. But also, even if she hadn't got me, I was listening obviously to the questions that the other artist was receiving, and there's a way to respond to a question that doesn't have to be blocking or making corrections. A question is not something that has to be answered in a certain way. It creates a context. So to me, opening up any area of questioning can be something that you can explore. And a lot of people within interviews and within sort of public realm or talking online, they start formulating their answer before they've actually received the question or the end of the question, and they're missing out on the juice of what it is to be a responder or to be in a response flow. And so I think that's what's something I think with I mean certainly with your style is you let people ramble on like me,
Mm.
but also you allow them the space to get to that point, even if it takes a long time to get there. You're allowing them to have that space, and that's quite rare. And so maybe there's an area where you can explore how you do these things. And let's face it, who doesn't love sharing their ideas and talking
Exactly.
about
You got to share.
talking about themselves?
You got to share your ideas.
Yeah.
I never like my first radio interview was my track Judas last year on a
Mm-hmm.
community station. I published it on my podcast.
It's really good.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, that's the other thing is community radio is can be good. It's changed in Australia though, hasn't it?
Mm.
The whole vibe of community radio used to be very much vibrant, experimental. Um, it used to have more of a local impact to the community.
Mm.
Now there's so much syndication that ends up being a franchise of something larger. And what's happened to the ABC, I don't know if you've noticed, but the quality of not the very top. They've always had really good interviews and really good reporters at the very top, but that point where they're on site interviewing or on site journalism, like at bushfires or crisis or parliament or wherever or overseas, the quality of the journalism has just dropped. And I know it's not because the journalists themselves are dumber or more stupid or more ignorant or um, less educated. I know it's not just, it could be that, but it's not just that. It's from the top down, the, the top level has said, please make all the rest of the news more like commercial news, more like Channel 7 or 9 or 10 or whatever. Make it more commercial and make it dumber and more basic because then we'll attract a larger body of people.
That's what I
And
hate about journalism and
it's,
newspapers
yeah,
too. A
yeah.
lot of bullshit
So I'm
out
really
there.
sad that it's happened with the ABC because to me, and sometimes in my life, the ABC has been, well, it's been a source of income at some points because we've been commissioned by the
Mm.
ABC and performances by the ABC. All throughout my life in Australia, it was I had a very close connection to it. My local radio station, when we lived in Tamworth, I would go on regularly to talk about art and music, mostly music, at the local radio station there. And it was absolutely, there's no way you could do that now. It's just, it just, it, they won't allow repeat performances of things
Yeah.
when it's live. It's the flexibility is gone. And I knew it was going, and I'll tell you the exact time. I can tell you exactly. I can't tell you the year exactly, but I can tell you the moment. One of the programmers on an ABC station complained that people were using the word expert,
Oh god. Political
and
correctness. That's what it's
yeah,
become.
that was the moment I went, okay, everything is down. But that was well after the moment I knew that university was starting to go in terms of what you can opportunities you can get from it,
Mm.
as a teacher, as a professor, as a even as a student. The moment when the at the when I was teaching at the VCA, um, it was probably around 1995,
Yeah.
and we had a huge staff meeting of all disciplines, so it was everybody there, and they said from now on, it's not a student, it's a client. And I went, and you could feel everybody going, oh, you've just killed us. You've just killed the whole concept of a college of arts. You've just killed the concept of further learning. You've just killed the concept of exploration. You've just killed the concept of fail better. You know, the
Mm.
Samuel Beckett kind of approach to doing things to learn. Because they're a client, what does a client do? A client pays for a service, and the customer is always right. And it's like, how can a little 18-year-old kid that comes from Geelong be more right than a seasoned um, uh, violin or clarinet professor who's been all over the world and has done all these different, performed in all different capacities? How can this little 18-year-old person be more wise and experienced and know more than this seasoned professional? It just doesn't make sense. And yet, structurally, that person had more power to execute whatever they wanted. So if they, for instance, failed an exam, they could contend it because, oh, well, it was my personal expression to make those squeaks and squawks. No, Weber doesn't have it, but that was my interpretation. No, Weber doesn't have squeaks and squawks. Some other pieces do, but not Weber.
Yeah, scary.
Yeah, so I think we're in a very difficult.
The ABC say that they're not Labor or Liberal focused, but they're more Labor focused. I mean, I was watching SBS. I think it was 2 nights ago. They had a talk show on narcissism, and this is just depressing stuff. It's just like I can't be bothered watching this shit.
Well, again, a lot of news outlets, and entertainment ones like the ABC, which it does everything.
Yeah.
You have to be skeptical. You've got no choice if you want to find some truth in things, or you want to find what's actually happening. You've got to go to multiple news sources and original sources and primary sources, and you also have to think. Like sometimes things are given to you, information's given to you, and you just absorb it because we're well trained to do that now with social media and everything. And people don't actually stop and think. And like for instance, right now we have this is a good example. Now because of where I'm at in my vaccine status, I have the opportunity now to book for in the next few months my booster shot in Vienna, and it's free. It's great. It's everything. Just click on here, and I'm clicking on here, and of course it doesn't work because sometimes Vienna is a little bit slow, and they say you can do something, and then it takes a bit of time for the app to work. But the thing is, I didn't even think about it. I've already decided what I'm going to do. Of course, I'll get the booster. So I didn't even think, hang on, maybe I should wait and see what other people. No, I know. I already know. Now, if I'm that clear, yes, I've done a lot of research to know, and I've talked to people, and I've watched what's happened as the vaccine unfolds. But there are people who are equally in the opposite, who will say, no, I don't need it. I'm not even going to look at that. I don't need a vaccine. I don't even need the vaccine. Why should I get it? I'm young, I'm healthy. And they're already in that. So how does somebody, for me, like me, who's so adamant about what they're going to do, and this other person who's so adamant, how do we meet?
Yeah, look, I'm fully vaccinated, and I feel good about it, but I don't know. I haven't heard anything about a booster shot in Australia.
No, you won't get it for another. Well, you'll certainly get it within the 9 to 12 months of your last shot.
So how long is that going to last for?
That will probably be for the next 3-4 years.
I'll talk to my GP about that. Yeah, but it's a pain. Like, if I want to sit for coffee, I got to show my vaccination pass.
Yeah.
So I say to the girls at the coffee shop, I'm vaxxed. That's my new trend.
Yeah, cool.
Vaxxed.
But the other thing is, you have to show your credit card anyway if you don't pay cash. Every time you make a transaction, you have to show something. You can't just rock up to the coffee shop and get your coffee. So you also have to show you have to show yourself presentable in clothes. You can't just get out of bed and go for coffee. I mean, you can, but maybe if you live at, upstairs above a cafe in Avalon Beach or something, but you have to actually do things in order to receive a service. So showing that is just another one of those things.
It's
You
not
have to
just
put on
that.
glasses to read the paper sometimes.
Me,
So
my grandfather went into Lifeline. They wouldn't let him in unless he had his vaccine certificate because he forgot. That pissed me off.
yeah, that is wrong. That's where the because a lot of older people, they're
He
not
got it
used
on
to
paper.
this. Yeah, that's not fair, and they're actually I think that's something where if he's already registered at Lifeline or even registered in the government in some way, um, there should be a connection where they can just check whether he's who he is. Yeah, that's a really, I think that's going to be a big problem. The other problem is a lot of people are not going to hospital because they're concerned they're going to get COVID, and then they die. In fact, it's not exactly, but it's along the lines. My sister's partner died in August, and he wouldn't go to the hospital, and he was, by the time he had to go, by the time they got him to the hospital, he was already so sick that they couldn't heal him, and it happened so suddenly because he was hesitant for about a year to go and get himself checked up, and then within 10 days he was gone. And that's not necessarily, that could have happened under any circumstances. He might not have just wanted to go to the doctor or whatever reason, but having that COVID looming, the potential of having that would have made it easier to make that decision of not going, and not getting help when he needed it.
So did your cousin catch COVID?
No. This is my sister's partner. No, he didn't catch it, but it was, if he had gone to the hospital earlier to get himself fixed, or there's a possibility they could have saved his life if he'd gone early enough. But he might have caught COVID then. So we don't know. We just I know a lot of people who've had COVID. I've had a lot. I've known 3 children who've had COVID, and they're still a couple of times since then. It's been about 9 months to a year since they had it. They got it very early, and they still have little moments where they have to go home for a week. They're sick. They have to stay home, and it may not be related. We don't know, But I know people who've had the antibody test. They've not been before they were vaccinated. They've had the antibody test, and their antibodies are through the roof. So they obviously had it and they didn't know. I know people who are still in the long COVID. They're just so sick and tired. They just cannot get beyond the fatigue and the breathlessness, and they just keep going. It gets better and better, but it still keeps moving along like that.
Even after the 2 weeks. Jesus Christ. This thing, I'm over it.
Yeah, so all I can say is keep your mask on, stay safe. But that's the other thing, was we have to balance life out with what we do, because I'm in contact with children, young children, quite a lot. I'm considered one of the at-risk people, but I've had absolutely no problem. Obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be here probably. But and yeah, I took one plane trip. I had to take a number of plane trips to London for my sister because that's where she lived, to go to help her with the death and the funeral. And when I got back to Vienna, the last trip, the NHS had said, "Oh, you're a primary contact because somebody on the plane had COVID. And it's like, oh, great. They have done every test. I don't know if you've been flying or you've been traveling recently, but
No.
there are so many points where you have to stop and show that you're negative, show that you've been vaccinated. We have a thing here called the 3G rule, which means you have to be either immunized, get impfed, get gurgled, or get healed. I can't remember the third one. But you have to show all the time your certificate, like you say, going to a cafe, and yet somebody still gets through with a positive result, gets on a plane.
It's not that, Elizabeth.
mind-boggling.
I wouldn't be booking a plane trip or any holiday. It's a nightmare at the moment. It really is. It's too much
I know.
mucking around.
Yeah. What's the status in Australia as far as travel?
Still bought.
Overseas?
It's people have to pay for like $300 for a COVID test and all this stuffing around. It's a nightmare. Got to wait 12 hours. Negative.
But are you actually able to say take a trip?
You can, but I wouldn't unless I really had to.
As far as opening up from Austria to Australia, I was looking at the next available. The last time I checked, the next available flight would be in March or April next year.
There's no guarantee that will go ahead too.
Right, exactly. And so you can pay for it and everything, but you can't guarantee that it's going to happen. So, yeah, it's a big problem, and we're able to travel from all over Europe right now without any problems, so long as we have the vaccination. And people who come to Vienna are able to travel freely as long as they're vaccinated. But now they're having, because we have a unfortunately tragically low rate of vaccination here. It's only 62%.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's absolutely. The people who are vaccinated are so angry. There's one little town, for instance, a little town outside of Vienna, and they've had 60% of the people have actually had COVID. So they think, well, why bother getting a vaccine? We're all here. No one died here. We just all got sick. No problem. Just mentally. So they're spreading it out. We had 3,000 cases yesterday.
Are you in a lockdown?
No, we're not. We're only in restrictions.
Still
pretty much open, yeah. But we have to wear restrictions in the sense we have to wear a mask. We're restricted to how many people in an audience. Restaurants have to have a certain distance between tables. But no, it doesn't. It doesn't affect people's lives too much right now, and we're able to travel all over the place. So. They don't. When you if I travel to another city, like I'm going to Graz next week or the week after, don't even have to show a vaccination pass. Yeah. Just get on the bus, get on the train, go.
That's so cool. But thanks for coming on.
I would rather show it because it means that everyone else has to show it, and that means that there's going to be less likelihood of people having it on the train. But double masking is the way to go.
Yeah, thanks for coming on today's podcast too, Elizabeth.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Yeah, thank you. It's been a while too.
It has. Awesome.